Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seed of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. So today is Saturday the 19th, and tomorrow is the equinox. That is the time of the year when night and day are at equal lengths. It is a time of balance. It is a time when we need to seek balance within ourselves, and the balance we seek within ourselves will expand out into the world around us. I think it's important to take this time and take a breath, take a lot of breaths, actually. Take a breath and just center yourself as best you can and shut out the outside world, shut out all the news about the war or whatever it is, wherever it is you spend a lot of your time. Just, and even if it's not anything necessarily, negative or stress, I'm negative, but stress producing. And maybe you spend a lot of time, working, doing something that you really love. This is a time when we need to sort of just step away and be within the oneness of the moment, in the oneness of the moment. Now, very often when you have something that you love, that brings you to the moment. There's nothing like that sense of wonder when you learn something new or something is illuminated to you. It lifts the spirit, right? But a lot of times we spend our time reacting, responding to the people in our lives, fulfilling the needs of the people in our lives, in some cases, fulfilling our own needs as well. I mean, we have to work. Many of us have families that we have to attend to. So, to carve out that moment in time is so very important. And I think that's something that you definitely want to do on this equinox. Now, the equinox here occurs at, I think, 3:28, but we'll check because we're going to look at the chart. We'll look at the chart of the equinox, and I want to pull some cards on it. And I think what I want to do first is look at the chart, and then we can pull the cards. And I'll put timestamps as to when this happens in case you're not really all that interested in the astrology, and maybe you just want to move on to the card reading. So I'll do that. So let me pull up this chart right this moment. So I pulled up the chart for the sun's ingress into Aries. And I've put it on a natural chart, meaning that we start at 0 degrees of Aries. Every one of the houses has 30 degrees. It gives us a really good perspective of the archetypes at work, regardless of the location. When you add the location, the houses change and such. And so we can see those themes of rebirth. Where are those? Where's the theme of rebirth coming, right? The sun in Aries is the start of this zodiacal year, and it is in a way the starting point. It's like really when, in a certain level, 2022 gets started. In it, and then that whole idea of like springing into and at least in the northern hemisphere, it's the expansion of the light, and in the southern hemisphere the light starts to wane and it becomes a more introspective time for those in the southern hemisphere. But for those in the northern hemisphere, this is when we come out of our hibernation into what sort of lies ahead for us. And when you do a chart, for a seasonal chart, whether it be an equinox or a solstice, that chart pretty much sort of shows us the energy of that portion of the year. So we could even go as far to say that this chart is a chart that will go for 3 months. So this is the next 3 months before we come to the solstice. which will be the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, and the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. And of course, a lot, and this could very well just be my particular prejudice, or where my attention goes, because I live in the northern hemisphere. There seems to be a lot going on up here. I'm sure there are things going down in the southern hemisphere as well, as my friends in Australia and New Zealand and wherever else, uh, they have their own things to deal with. But we kind of have this, we have many, I think we have more wars up here, as it were. So let's take a look now. Of course, Aries is associated with the god of war, but it's not the only facet of Aries. It's not about beating people up and being a bully. However, Chiron is in Aries, right? And so when Chiron is in a sign, all that woundedness comes up. The woundedness of the bully, so bullies become more bullyish, and people who have been bullied in their life feel that feeling of powerlessness, and that you're not quite strong enough to overcome what this person is doing to you. You're going to be on one side of that or the other, right? So as Chiron moves through that, and that's not the only thing Chiron is. Chiron is about your identity. Chiron in Aries is about your identity. Who am I? How do I define myself? And who has the right to tell me how to define myself? Shouldn't that be my right to call myself whatever I want? Am I a woman? Am I a man? Am I neither? Am I both? So we have the right to call ourselves really what we can name ourselves, yes. And then we have the idea of self-protection, right? And so a lot of the stuff that is coming up about people coming up against our boundaries, we're saying this, you cannot, in the case of the vaccine, right? You people who are saying you cannot enter my skin with a vaccine. I do not want to be injected with that. This is my line in the sand. And there's this autonomy, but we also have to balance that with the needs of the collective. And so, and of course, it can all be argued, and I don't want to really have that argument on this channel, because that's not really what this is about. What this is about is an understanding that what we're seeing out in the world is reflected in the stars. It is reflected in the stars. And so we look to the stars to maybe some answers and how best to navigate this time, right? How do we navigate it? We are at a point in our evolution where there's been a lot of like Aryan wounding issues going on, right? With the unintended consequences of war, a military industrial complex that is in full swing. I mean, they're making javelins and they're making all kinds of things so that the Ukrainians can fight for their right to be. They do have the right to be, but why do we have to like bomb each other? I mean, really, why do we have to do that? So these are all questions that come up. And of course, the last time that Chiron was in Aries, we were, in this country at least, embroiled in the Vietnam War, which was, maybe as awful to the Vietnamese people from us as Russia is being to the Ukrainians. I'm not sure. I was very young at that time. I was like in grammar school, so I can't speak from my own personal awareness around the war, and I'm not a student of history. Astrology is big enough to study along with natural healing and all that other stuff that I've studied over the years, and women's studies and and pagan and symbology and esoteric studies. You can't be good at everything. You can't study everything. Although with my Aquarius South node, I wish I could. I'd like to spend my time doing that, but I do have a North Node in Leo, so I have to express myself, and here I am, for good or ill, expressing myself. So let's take a look at this chart. Now, this is the chart for just the general energy. It's not locational. So of course the sun in Aries is going to be, the sun illumination. This is an illumination. This is a new birth, right? That's why this is the natural time of Easter. Easter, we have the resurrection, right? The resurrection of the sun. And in the northern hemisphere now, we have the sun. The sun will be in the sky longer and longer and longer until it reaches its zenith at the summer solstice, where the sun stands still and then starts to decline. So it reaches its apex and then it starts its decline to go to the point that we're at now, but on the other side of the 6 months from now, when the sun is in Libra, right? So as the sun starts to move along the northern hemisphere, higher up in the northern hemisphere, of course, it becomes lower in the southern hemisphere, and it becomes much more of perhaps an introspective time. We'll see what's in this chart. So we have this new energy, the sun moving into Aries. The ruling planet of Aries is going to give some sort of flavor to this 3-month period, and really the whole sort of zodiacal year, if you want to just expand it out to that. And we have Mars at 11 degrees of Aquarius. Here it is up here. It has just come off its conjunction to Venus. It is on its way to a square to Uranus. So it is applying to Uranus. When any aspect is applying, that means the energy is coming up. It's always sort of coming up against resistance. And so there's a feeling of like something's going to pop, something's going to give. And so there's going to be that feeling where there's a lot of pressure sort of to move forward, and something is going to break. And we know that something is going to break because what we're dealing with Uranus and Mars is the fixed signs. And so oftentimes when the fixed signs come up like this to each other, that's when things happen. And Mars can be aggression, of course, but it's forward motion. It's like the rocket, right? It's all this rocket stuff that we're talking about with the no-fly zones, and then we see all these rockets getting lobbed. I was listening to might have been PBS, and they said that that many of the rockets that they're slobbing over and killing people indiscriminately were from World War II. I mean, they're not even using new stuff. If they even have new stuff, I mean, I don't think they have the greatest, I don't think they have I'm not sure they have the money to have the best and I think they put a lot of money into certain areas, and maybe, they just throw, with something like when it's only civilians, let's just, drop what we have from 50 years ago. So it's very disturbing, of course. It's terrible. It's absolutely wrong. And really, it has nothing to do with the Russian people. They're not asking for this. This was somebody's idea, a single person's idea with a group of people behind him, to assert their will. So the interesting thing about this sort of the tension of the square is that the energy of, say, Zelensky, who has his sun and his sun and his Venus at 6 degrees of Aquarius. Incidentally, 6 degrees of Aquarius around that is the south node of the U.S. So there's something about Zelensky's energy that reminds us of our own rebellious past, of our own sort of yearning to be free and to be free of tyranny. And so this situation, at least for the United States, and as the United States and Ukraine sort of interact with each other, reminds us, how hard fought our freedoms have been, and just the way the Ukrainians. Now, we don't have Vladimir Putin lobbing bombs at us, so it's a little bit different of an issue. But the power of the democracy is the power of the people, but the people have been put asleep, and the rest, and the people, and things are waking up. Things are waking up, and it's waking up because it's the time to wake up. Saturn and Uranus have been square now. This is the second year of influence with that, like big influence. It's been coming and we've been feeling it, but there's so many things going on at once. We're at such an evolutionary crossroads and a shift. This is when the shift hits the fan, seriously. And this, of course, this equinox is a big part of it, quite frankly. Now, the moon, interestingly enough, is in the very last degree of Libra in this chart. And it is in a tight inconjunct to the sun. Now, this inconjunct is a Scorpio sign inconjunct. And so it requires an adjustment in the way that you feel. And I don't know about you, but I think you can change your mind. But how do you change your feelings? How do you do that? You have to feel them. You have to feel the emotion of whatever that is. And this inconjunct between the sun and the moon is a feeling and an emotion of, you cannot do this to society. We do not agree with what you're putting out there, and you need to stop. That's the energy of this inconjunct. And so take that for what it is. I see it as the world sort of putting up a break, or putting up a wall, or finally telling the bully that he can't bully anymore. And that's really what this feels like to me, to a certain extent. I mean, it's not completely that, but that's how it seems to be expressing, at least in the situation in Russia and Ukraine. And then now, of course, we're involved, or the whole world's involved. You can't not be involved in this situation. But we do have, Mars being the ruler of this chart, we do have it in a new phase to Venus in Aquarius. So this is about like taking action to make new relationships, new groups, the sign for Aquarius looks like they look like waves, but it's not really waves per se, it's a vibration. Aquarius is vibration. And so there's a new vibration. And that vibration is the right to breathe air, the right to build a society where there's equality and the people at the top aren't getting everything. That's really what this is about, I think. And that's what Zelensky symbolizes, really. Now, as to how effective he could be as a president before this happened, perhaps not, because there were still things that needed to break down. There were still things, ways of thinking and things to break down the old paradigm and bring in that new energy. It's interesting. I've been watching Zelensky show, Servant of the People. I'm almost done with the first season. And my husband Michael thinks I'm crazy because it's in Ukrainian, but of course there's subtitles. So it's like you're reading that, but you're missing stuff. And I'm like, that's okay. I can miss stuff the first time. I'll watch it again because it's really quite nice, especially when they're at the oligarchs' houses and there's all these beautiful, like crazy ass um, caviar and fine crystal and $100 bills everywhere. It's pretty cool, but I'll look at that after I watch it and actually read the words. But it's interesting because so far as I see it, it's like him and a group of his friends that take over the government, and I don't know if they actually get anything done, but because it's only the first season, and it is a comedy, but it's very Aquarian. It's like this group of actors like take over or this group of teachers or this just group of people take over a country and say, we can be this, but things have to be fair, things have to be just, people have to pay their fair share, and so it really brings up the whole sort of reality of the oligarch, which in Russia and the Ukraine is very much a reality. It's a reality here in the United States as well. But because we have more freedom, we don't feel it. We're not oppressed the way they are oppressed by the oligarch. But we still don't have our voice. And if America is the birthplace of democracy, then this is part of the and really we're talking about this, democracy will reign supreme. Democracy won't reign supreme through guns and bullets and ammunition. Now, of course, Zelensky needs that because he's in the middle of a war zone. What are you going to do, right? It's like, I need water, and you're in the desert and you see a professor who hasn't drank water in a couple of days, giving him a book, something that he loves and adores and is important to him, is not going to be as important as giving them water, right? So you have to give them what they need. But beyond that, democracy is the people, and in order for democracy to really thrive, we need a free press, which we don't have, and we need an educated populace, which we don't have, because education is being defunded. Even like not even defunded, but like they're saying, well, let's not talk about slavery because we don't want the kids to like think that we were terrible. Let's do a more optimistic view of what America is. So, and at the same time saying to people who have come from the roots of slavery, that their experience, that it wasn't as bad as you think it was. Yeah, because you weren't on that side of the rope or the whip. So we have a lot of energy here in Pisces, of course, because we have Mercury and Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces in this chart. So that's a lot of opportunity, a healing energy, expansion. But there's a lot of imagination in this. And so I think that there's a lot of power of imagination at this time. And so this is a time to imagine what it is that you want your life to look like. So I think one of the most powerful things that Zelensky is doing is that he's just inspiring people. He's just saying, we can do this. We're not going to give up. We're not, really in a way, I guess, like Churchill did. Of course, that was definitely before my time, during World War II. So this war is televised in a way where the people who are being most affected are showing us it. Like, it didn't really happen. Didn't happen that way in Vietnam. We had press there to see what was happening. But what were the people going through? I don't think that there was their perspective, and we're getting that perspective at this time. So we're really getting an eyeful of the wound, you know, that wound of Aries. And when Chiron is in Aries, it's really about the healing of that wound. So it's not just about seeing these terrible things, but it's about healing these things and making the changes that are necessary and giving people the right and saying, you can't have it all. You can't have, now I'm not talking about you and me, I'm talking about the people who have all of it. They can't have all of it. It's not theirs to have. It's everyone's. It's everyone's. And with the, you know, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, that's going to become more and more evident. And, you know, it is going to come through the shadow of Aquarius, which is not going to be, you know, not it, which we're seeing in a way, you know, that dissociated, detached, watching it from a distance kind of thing. We have to be very careful because war is heady, and it can draw you in, and you take sides, and you know, and you're putting all your energy and like wanting, and that is not it, it's an the age old right story between good and evil, but it depends on who you are as to who you think is good and who you think is evil. It's really more about finding the balance within yourself, taking yourself away and giving yourself, you know, I thought to myself, when people feel like they don't have what they want or what they need, they will go after it. Now, for some reason, Putin feels like he needs to show how strong he is by killing people or beating people up or being a bully, or lying or cheating or whatever that is. You know, most people, a lot of people work right out of their wounds, and he has his Chiron in his chart in Capricorn. So he's leading through his wound because you know, Capricorn is that energy of the leader. Um, so we're coming to terms with this. We're coming to terms with this. Now, the North Node and the South Node of the Moon, right, are significant. And we see the South Node here in the 8th house, right? We see the North Node here in the 2nd house, of course, because we have, as you know, Aries rising chart. But it brings home this sort of energy of, you know, Taurus is about planting a seed and nurturing a seed. It's about concentrating on what is essential in our lives, what is the most important. And there's a simplicity to Taurus, whereas this is all like lies and not in its, you know, maybe uh, uh, maybe Scorpio gets a bad rap, but as a South Node and, you know, the kind of habitual emotional patterns can be, you know, Scorpio can be control. It can be manipulation, um, you know, enmeshment, you know, having something on somebody. You can't say anything because I know this about you and I'm going to use it against you. Pretty heady times and pretty heady stuff. We also have what's coming into exactitude, and what is in what we're feeling now, because it doesn't have to be exact to feel it, it's just going to get more and more intense, is the fact that Saturn is squaring the nose of the moon. Now, Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn's like structures for progressive thinking, structures for humanitarianism, right? Structures of technology, all of that. And it's in a square to the South Node, which is the past, and the North Node, which is the future. And the question is, what's the way forward? How Saturn in Aquarius trying to build the structures, right? How do we do that? How do we do that? How do we build the structures at a time when There's so much tumult, right? Um, the resolution node for this configuration is the south node. It is the south node in Scorpio. So what do we need to let go emotionally? Where do we need to release? What do we need to let go? Or resentments or enmeshments or control or all of that stuff? Where do we have to let go? Where do we have to let go before we can move into that peace? Peace. What shadow must we walk through? Yea, though I walk through the shadow of death. What is that? The 23rd Psalm. So let's take a look at this chart. Let's see, is this the one I want? Yeah, so this is the same chart, only this is Washington, D.C. And I'm looking at it because I live in America. So this is a chart for America. We could look at the chart for Kyiv. We could look at it in Moscow. We can do all that as well. And maybe I will. But we can see here in the chart for the US, for Washington, D.C., at the time of the equinox, we have that sun in Aries in the 10th house. So this is a rebirth of 10th house leadership. So this is about a rebirth of leadership. The south node, I mean, the ruler of that Aries sun, Mars, is in the 9th house of faraway places. So I feel like this is about making new alliances, new alliances here. We have the south node in that 6th house, and we have the north node in the 12th house. What could that possibly mean? What could that mean? Well, Saturn square the nodes here. Saturn has to go through the south node in order to move into that north node. So you have to sort of go this way before you can go this way. And the 6th house for the US is the house of the military. So this may very well be, in a way, some sort of military action or some pressure in that direction, right? In that direction. The interesting thing about this this chart is that Pluto is actually in conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith happens to be on Zelensky's Jupiter, which happens to be in his 1st house, I believe, conjunct his ascendant. That's what makes him such a wonderful communicator. I mean, the man speaks Ukrainian, and we're getting the message loud and clear as well, right? So it's a very interesting chart. Let's look, I was going to say something else, but let's look at this chart. Let's relocate this. So let me do a little technicalities here. Let's relocate. No, that's not where you relocate. Here we go. So let's look at this in Moscow. Oh, let's look at Kyiv first. Kyiv and Moscow aren't going to be that much different because they're kind of close, right? So here we see the sun in the 7th house of the Ukraine. And the 7th house is both friends, partners, and open enemies. And so we will see both with the Ukraine. We will see more people partnering up with them, and we will also, of course, in probably there'll just be an increase in that energy. But it is in the house of diplomacy. So it's possible that this can be a very good time for that. They're also getting a whole lot of energy here in the 6th house. This can be the help. This can be humanitarian help. This is a lot of aid here. And it's not just from one place, it's from many places, right? Many places. We have Saturn and Saturn square the nodes here in this 5th house. The resolution node for Saturn square the nodes in the case of the Ukraine is in the 3rd house, and the North node in the 9th house. So there needs to be a communication about the realities of war, so that we can come to a better understanding of how to bring peace. We can see that in this chart. Now let's take a look at this chart relocated to Russia. And then what I'll do is I'll do it to Greenwich, England, which is because would be more the world chart, because that's the like Greenwich, England is where the international, it's like 0 degrees, right? And everything sort of revolves around that axis. But let's take a look at Moscow. Okay. Okay, let's relocate. Okay, so let's see what we have for Moscow. So as we see, it's a very, very similar chart because they're not really that far from each other. But there is differences. So let's take a look. They're subtle, but they're there. So let me look at these two charts next to each other. How do I do this? Here we go. All right, let's get down to it here. Okay. This one and this one, I believe. Okay, so this is relocated to Kyiv. We have the ascendant at 24:15 of Virgo, the ascendant for Moscow, 29:21 of Virgo, the last degree of Virgo. Let's see if there are any differences here that I can see as far as, okay, where things are. So in Moscow, the difference, and I use the Porphyry house system. So if you use a different house system, you may see something different with this. For Russia, the South node is in the 2nd house, and the North node is in the 8th house. And so this is interesting because the nodes are reversed in the houses that they would normally be, right, in just a 0 degree Aries chart. So that takes into consideration. But what is different in this chart? We have Pluto in the 4th house in the relocated chart for Moscow, and in the 3rd house for Kyiv. So that changes the dynamic, because Pluto in that 4th house is transformation of the homeland to a certain extent, right? The energy's there. Here, the energy in Kyiv is in the more creative, self-expressive. So this is really this is their ability to express themselves, to let us know what's going on, to be heard, to be seen, to be right. And for Russia, it's less, we're not seeing as much, but this is pretty profound. Either way, in either situation, the children are suffering here. Okay, and then the last thing is Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith for this chart is right up here in the 9th house. Black Moon Lilith for the Kyiv chart. This was Russia. This is Kyiv. Is in the 10th house. This is conjunct Zelensky's Jupiter. This is conjunct Zelensky's Jupiter. So Black Moon Lilith is the point of gravity. It's what pulls us back in. And so this, this is changing the truth. This is about the truth coming out in Russia. And this is about the Ukrainian people for self-governance. The 10th house is self-governance. It's the rights to govern, to make the decisions for your own people, really. So it's all very, very interesting. Okay, so that was the chart, and I think I'm going to stop there. Okay, let me hold on a second. All right, let's stop the share. Okay, great. So let's take a look at the cards. Now, I want to look at I want to use my Illuminated Earth Oracle deck for this, which is a strange choice, but not like a regular tarot deck. But let's take a look and see what comes up. I love this deck. It's by an artist out of the Seattle area. I'll tell you in a minute. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Claire Mack. CLAIREMACK. Claire Mack. Illuminated Earth Oracle. I saw it on Etsy. I like giving artists business, really. Okay. All right. The first card is Epiphany. What a beautiful card to get. This is a reading for the equinox, Epiphany. So people are coming to realizations. See what's challenging those realizations. Retreat. It's easy to retreat into a known, even if the known isn't that great. It's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome. It seems like a Stockholm syndrome. So don't let fear get in the way of the clarity of thought that you have, or the ideas that are coming into your head. They need to be looked at. They need to be evaluated. Don't hide from them. Let them sit. It's interesting. I talk about when we first started this reading is that we just need to sit in the moment and collect ourselves. And perhaps that's what we need best do on the equinox. In fact, I'll put this out to you. Whatever time the equinox is where you are, take a few moments, even if you have to, like if you're working and you have to go into the bathroom, and just sit there quiet, which of course is not the greatest place. You could find a place besides the bathroom because it depends on your situation. But to stay in that moment and to breathe in and to breathe out. With every breath in, you're breathing in peace. And with every breath out, you're breathing out all those feelings and emotions and sort of letting go of all resentments and fear, and let that out, let that go, and bring in the life and blow out the wound. And just, and not just, it's not just about blowing out the wound. We need to feel it. We need to experience it. Saturn, the South Node in Scorpio, as the resolution node for the Saturn square the nodes, is going to be about feeling all those things, but letting them go. It's, you know, a lot of what we're seeing is there to make us feel things that we need to feel. And, you know, do your due diligence and feel them. And a lot of times they don't feel that good. And we can't, we're going to want to retreat, whether it's we want to like have a drink or, you know, have a smoke. I mean, there's nothing wrong, unless you're addicted, of course, then there's a problem, but there's nothing wrong with taking the edge off of things. Things are hard, right? I mean, as long as it's not something that, you know, is a habitual thing that's going to hurt you, taking the edge off a little bit is not a bad thing, but it's better to do it through breath and meditation, perhaps, or just being quiet or spend time out in nature. One of the ways that I find this most helpful for me, and one of the reasons why, like every morning, well, unless it's raining or snowing or too cold, I'm getting old now, so I don't get out there as much as like in this weather as much as I maybe did in the past, but you know, why I go out and listen to the birds in the morning and listen to the crow crowing and knowing that there's, you know, that we're not in this on our own as people, right? We have all these helps that are right outside our door, right? Mother Nature is waiting and ready for the relationship that we've had with her before. But now we have it with more knowledge and more perspective, perhaps. We can really foster a new relationship with the earth at this time. Let's see. At the root of this is the card called transient. Transient, which means that we need to stay aware that whatever happens through this period, that it will change, that this isn't just, this is a temporary phase that we're going through. We have to understand that there's a cyclical process here. And there's going to be times when this is what we're looking at, and there are going to be times when there are other things that we're looking at. But the question is, what does that sort of evoke in you? What is this bringing up for you that you need to handle and take care of in your own life? Where are you fearful of the new and the possibility of a new way, a freer way? You know, where can you let go of your hangups when it comes to allowing people to be who they are? You know, I mean, a lot of us spend a lot of time trying to control other people, when in point of fact, you know, we already have the car. We're the car. We can control ourselves, right? We can go in the direction and make connections and go with the flow, instead of, you know, constantly fighting ourselves and not thinking we're worthy or thinking we're too worthy. I mean, pick your thing, right? See what's in the past. Vulnerability. So, you know, we all feel a little vulnerable, don't we? I'll tell you, after 4 years of Donald Trump, I felt pretty vulnerable. And then the attack on the Capitol, attacking democracy, that makes you feel vulnerable from your own place, from your own country. You know, why? Because these people want to be dictated to. They want the system to work for them. They don't feel it works for them, and they want somebody who's going to just do the job, finally get it over with. Fortunately, when you go for that, you get somebody like Putin, you know? And I'm not saying that that's what the Russians did, because it's much more complex than that, I know. Let's see what's in the sky. Combustion. Combustion can be literally combustion, right? Bombs, boom, that. But it's also the fire within you, lighting up, lighting the fire within you. What's the fire in your belly? What is it that you believe in? What is it that you would fight for? That's the question, right? See the immediate future, the cosmos, and we see that beautiful rainbow. So I feel like what these cards are trying to say is that we are experiencing this, and it's very difficult, of course, what we're having to look at, what we're having to experience, but it's all in service to the process of evolution for us to become more open and more, quite frankly, more powerful. When you have the power in the hands of the very few, there's not a lot that can get done, but put that power in the hands of the many and trust that the many can do it, and see them create what they need to, and expand, and in the ways that you know, that we're going to have to do anyway if we want to have any chance of saving ourselves, quite frankly. How it's seen from the outside, mystery. You know, whenever I do these readings, and this card comes up when it's, you know, these sort of like monthly readings, or even you know, readings for the equinoxes and such, how it looks like from the outside. Who's the outside? Well, maybe the extraterrestrials, which says that, you know, we don't really know. It's a mystery. We don't know, but we have to at least endeavor. If we knew if it was going to work or it wasn't going to work, would we do it? I don't know. So just, you know, just do it. Do it. Oh, goodness gracious. The immediate, the domestic situation, the earth. So these cards are saying, get outside, folks. Get outside. Some people in Ukraine can't, but you can. You can get outside with nature. Hopes and fears, water. Of course, water is healing. It's life. Water is life. It can spread toxins. It can spread disease. It spreads, water spreads. So we're hoping for healing. We're hoping for healing. The outcome, we have attachments. This is the barnacle. Question is, what is holding you back? What calcified thought forms? What attachments that suck your energy? Or maybe not even suck your energy, because barnacles don't really suck energy. Like barnacles get on like ships, right? It's like a colony. They have to, like, whatever they have to do to get them off. Barnacle glue. You know, barnacles is about what's glued on really tight. Let's see what's underneath it. We have fire. It's the element of fire, which is passion, productivity, and relationship. And we have to remember that the moon is in the last degree of, it's actually void in the last degree of Libra. That last degree of Libra. So we have to figure out how to relate better, and where we need to come to an understanding of who we are, and it's okay to be who you are, and we have to let other people be who they are. Well, we can't let people beat people up. We you know, that's not the way. The bullies don't get to win this time, guys. They don't get to win. Keep the light on. Keep your light on. If you want to do domes of protection, or filling up, you know, the filling things up to bring out the light, to illuminate, that light is going to illuminate all kinds of things, and we need to be wide awake during that, but we also need to have time to sort of step back from it and not necessarily see what it has to show us. And because each one of us, this is sort of we're having this common experience in a way that perhaps we've never had before in this particular situation. It's certainly not the first war. Hope, I doubt it'll be the last. But we really have an opportunity to come together as for humanity. Aquarius is the water bearer. The Zelensky guy's in Aquarius. I'm watching the show, and it's all about, it's really Aquarian on an Aquarian medium, right? The internet. So this is about getting the word out, the word that we are sentient, self-asserting, self-governing individuals within a matrix of relationship. And we need to respect all of it, respect all the relationships, our relationships to people, our relationships to place, our relationship to the animals and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, our relationship to our planet. The true power, and if I could, what resonates with me the most is, we're sending all this energy and love and the like to Zelensky, to the Ukraine. Everybody's like wearing the little pins. It does matter because the energy sort of grows from that. So we don't have to necessarily like beat anybody up ourselves, but put the energy of having that the sense of you do have the right to be self-governed. You don't have to like be under the thumb. You can move in the direction of progress if that's what you want. And I think that we also need to send the healing to Russia, to the mothers who are losing their sons, who have no bread and no food now, and whose the government doesn't really care about. So it's not going to matter to them if their people are suffering. At least not the people in charge. I'm sure there are people within the system that would like to see the system work. Certainly the Ukrainians are fighting for that. So peace to all people, really. Peace to all people. So find that moment. Maybe balance an egg. If you have an egg, just put it out on the counter, and when the equinox is happening, it will stand straight up. And if you want, if you put it in the palm of your hand, you can actually feel the gravity like coming through the palm of your hand. It's pretty fun, actually, and kind of profound. It's like one of those little things that I've done in my life that really made an impression, like literally an impression, in my hands, because I was holding the egg and I felt the gravity. So it helps us feel the gravity of the situation. And, that Black Moon Lilith up there at the top of the chart of Russia and the Ukraine, the gravity of the rights to yourself. To work together, to be out from under the thumb. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to be doing the astrology of the next week. I'll talk a little bit about this equinox as well in that one. And I will see you again soon. Much love, everyone. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated. And I hope you have a wonderful equinox. See you soon, everyone. Take care. Bye.